Hi, I'm Zak.
And I'm Jules, and we are back with Life After Prison, Getting Out, your guide to being released from prison. So in each episode, we like to discuss a different issue that you may face when you get out. And today is all about finding work. So if you've been stuck or feel like you just don't know where to start, then hopefully today can give you a little bit of information that will help you out.
Yeah, 100%. For me, when I got out, finding work was quite challenging. I went through about 20 plus interviews until I got the yes, like, yeah, you got a job. So it's not easy, but just keep pushing. There's a yes around the corner. So yeah, that's what I'd say on that. That's a bit of my experience. So let's hear from James, who's got an experience that he wants to share with us about his journey of finding work.
Hello, my name is James. And how do I find work having got out of prison? While in prison, I made my plans. I made my short-term plans and my long-term plans. And it revolved around being a personal trainer. And while in prison, I contacted my teacher and the provider for the course. And having got out, my plans didn't turn out at all how I planned. And yeah, I kind of struggled with my mental health, and I struggled even finding my feet, even after finishing my level 2 course. And it affected my mental health really badly. And at times I even questioned my place on this planet. But I had a lot of temptation just to go shot and things like that. And I suffered a lot of isolation. But the way I got through it is by doing a lot of free courses and just keeping myself busy and working on other plans and so on. And eventually I got my breakthrough. What I did is I retrained as a barista. And yeah, and finally, after all those months, even 6 months, I finally, got some job offers. And I even got another role as a boxing apprentice with England Boxing, which is kind of good. And my message is, fight the temptation. It's going to be hard. And it's going to take a lot longer than you think. For me, it took 6 months for me to find a breakthrough. Do as many free courses as you can and keep going.
Thanks for that voice note, James. Really appreciate you sharing openly and honestly with us. And you touched, quite a few points there. So really good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we both understand that plans don't always work out and it is harder than it looks. So yeah, thank you for being so honest and sending that in. I'm really glad to hear it's going well with the boxing.
100%.
So today's guest, we have Lizzy Jewell from Working Chance. This is a charity that helps women find employment when they get out. So hi, Lizzy. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, good.
Great. Excellent. Yeah. So Lizzy, let's get straight into it. Yeah. Where can someone in James's position start? We we'd understand that Working Chance is an organisation for women, but the advice we give today can be for both men and women, right? So where could someone in James's position start then?
And maybe also a little bit about yourself and Working Chance.
Sure thing. So as you said, I'm Lizzy. I work at Working Chance. We are a women's criminal justice charity. So we support women. Some of them have been in prison, some of them haven't. And we help them find meaningful work. So we were founded in 2009 and we've helped thousands of people into jobs since then. James mentions that sense of like not everything going to plan. I think lots of people while they're inside have a really clear idea of where they want to be and they set themselves a deadline. And then they come out of prison and there is a lot of things to navigate, right? There's universal credit, finding somewhere to live, lots and lots of things, these little building blocks that need to fall into place. And quite often finding a job is the last one. So there are lots of pieces of the puzzle that need to fit in. And so women quite often come to Working Chance and they're like, trying to navigate childcare as well as finding somewhere to live. Maybe they've got, mental health things that they need to work on. And so maybe getting a job isn't the first thing on your list. And maybe there's other things that need to be attended to first. We just kind of advise that people take it one step at a time. And maybe work isn't the first thing, but when you are ready to look for work, there's loads and loads of support for it.
Yeah, 100%. And you touched on like many different issues. Likewise, James did, finances, healthcare, housing. I just want to remind everyone that we do cover those issues in separate episodes. So please look out for those episodes as well. But I really like what you said, you know, maybe not everything goes to plan, but there might be other priorities that you might have to put in place first. So what would you suggest like to do if someone needs to like set their plan or adjust their plan? What kind of things do you reckon they should do?
Well, there's a couple of things really. I think, you know, there's quite a lot of pressure at the moment with the cost of living going up, you know, bills going through the roof. There's lots and lots of pressures to find work straight away. And it can sometimes feel that like, you know, you just need something, you need a job. You know, James says that he trained as a barista while he was, you know, working on his sort of longer term plan. And, you know, our clients tell us this all the time that like, they're really, really aware that they need to make ends meet. They've got families to support, all of this. And, you know, there's pressure from the job centre as well. You need to be applying for jobs, pressure from probation. So maybe you do need a kind of stopgap before you find that dream job. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not you like losing sight of your vision or where you want to be. It's, you know, it's just reality, isn't it? It's just life. So then once you've got your paying the bills job and you've got another thing to look for. So at Working Chance, we use a careers coaching model, which means we spend quite a lot of time with the women who come to us for support. And we sit with them and we ask them about their values and their aspirations, where they want to be, what kind of work they want to do. And it just means that we can work with them. They might already be in a job, but then we can work with them for longer to make them, you know, see that they can find the right job and the dream job. And what we find is when people find a job they really love, it sticks, right? So when you're in the right job, you'll stick it out, you'll stay for longer, you can start to build that career. And so we find 92% of the people that we support into work are still in that job after 6 months.
Wow. To be fair, I completely relate to that because I'm a bit like that. I want something that I love and do so that I know it's, you know, it's going to continue. And so that's amazing. I think it's really important to think about that and to try and achieve what you want. Okay, so yeah, thankfully James does have some work, but for others who are worried about it or you know, are struggling with this, where else can they get help, or where else can they go to find employment?
So there are lots of organisations that support people. So Working Chance works with women, but there are lots of organisations that support men as well. So there's Switchback, who support young men in London. Bounce Back are brilliant as well. I think we'll list some more organisations a little bit later on. But yeah, there's lots of really varied support out there, and some of it's local, some of it's remote. So there is quite a number of options for you to try and find support that really suits you and your commitments.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really about finding something that is for you, that works for you, right?
Exactly.
Because not everything is not like a blanket rule for everyone, right?
Yeah, we know that one size fits all doesn't fit most people.
Yeah.
And that is a high percentage, 92, that stick to a job and what they're doing if they like it and if it's something that they really wanted to do.
Yeah, that's really sort of important to how we work as an organisation, that we work with employers. So we've got employers on our books who send us vacancies, and we've now got enough employers that we can give our clients quite a lot of choice. So, you know, we're not the job centre. We're not trying to push people into, you know, the first thing that comes along. And also, like, you know, it's quite often for the people we support, the first time that anyone's told them that they can choose, or that they can, you know, that they deserve to find something that they really love and they shouldn't just take whatever's given. You know, sometimes women come to us like, oh, well, beggars can't be choosers. And it's like, no, but you can decide what motivates you, why you want to get out of bed in the morning. I think really when work is at its best, it's something that really fires you up, and you can, you know, find that drive and find something that really, really suits you.
Yeah, Lizzy, you mentioned some really good points. I like that you know, you want people to be passionate and fired up to get up and go to work every day. But, you know, on the flip side of that, I like to feel like, yes, cool, I've got my plan A. I really want to get this job as my dream job. But sometimes we've got to be a bit realistic. Maybe I can't get that straight away. So I might have to put plan A on ice and then have a plan B, how would someone like navigate that?
I mean, there's lots of ways that you can start to navigate that. So first off, people don't always necessarily realize all the skills that they've got, and they don't always know that the experience they've had, would translate into a good CV if they feel like they've not been through, the traditional career path or that route. But that doesn't mean that those skills aren't there, and it doesn't mean that people don't have experience. So that's a starting point. And then also, like, there are other things that you can do while you're working, maybe volunteer. If, we get a lot of people who come to us who want to work in criminal justice organizations or in charities. And those are points where, like, your lived experience is a real asset. And, through volunteering or through work there, you can start to build out your experience in your CV, all while kind of figuring out what you want to do in the longer term.
100%. There's a big push on lived experience at the minute, right? Everyone, it's like the topic's like the buzzword almost, but that gives people like us opportunities to use, that experience in employment and build careers from it, right? So,
and you can take that experience into any sector. You don't have to work for a criminal justice organization just because you've got this experience, but it can be for some people a really useful stepping stone.
Oh, I love that. Thanks for that. That's really great.
Yeah, no, that is really helpful. And is there anything else that people can do maybe to work towards thinking about what they want to do, or how they, put these actions in place of actually getting to find work if they're not going to go to an organization or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's about starting off with, take some time and think about what it is that drives you. And then you can start to do the research about what sort of jobs speak to those skills and the things that really get you fired up. It can be useful to speak to an organization about it. They might be able to give you, a slightly different perspective, a different way of looking at things. But, you can also get that from your own research, speaking to family and friends, that sort of thing.
Okay, amazing. Like, for me, I was worried about getting a job when I got out. I was worried about the interview process. I kind of just wanted to swerve the fact that, of being in an interview. So, I just didn't want to have that conversation. But obviously now I know that it is a different story. I am employed, and, I'm finding that fear and that issue I had with it is kind of gone.
But that fear is really real. Like, that sort of, people often tell us that they've got, shame and guilt around their conviction. Quite often, if you have to make a disclosure to an employer or in an interview, you have to talk about a really unpleasant part of your life to kind of drag that up on a day when you're supposed to be your most confident self. That's not pleasant for everybody, and it can be really difficult. So, while, you can work on your disclosure, you can be really prepared and really confident for interview. It's not an easy thing to do. But the good news is what we are seeing with employers is that their attitudes are changing. So we've just launched some new research. We spoke to 1,000 employers, most of whom had never heard of us before. And we asked them loads of questions about whether or not they'd be open to hiring someone with a conviction. And what we found is that about a quarter of businesses have knowingly hired somebody with a conviction, and about 2/3 of them would be open to the idea of it. That might not sound like a lot. We've got a long way to go, but that's compared to about half of employers in 2016 said that they'd be open to it. So really, in the 6 years since the last study was done, things are moving in the right direction. And we're certainly seeing that employers are approaching us. They want to work with us. They want to work with the women that we're supporting into jobs. So really, like, we want to push for change. We want things to change quicker, but, there is some good news here. So yeah, we're finding that, like, more employers are open to it. So this time last year, we maybe had a couple of hundred vacancies on our books. We're now on about 4,000.
Wow.
And the great thing about that is we can, as I was saying about talking to clients about finding the dream job, the dream sector, whatever that might be, we're now in the position where we can give clients a bit more choice. And that's really empowering, right? They can choose what kind of industry they want to go into, what kind of job suits them and their families. And we're more able to kind of provide that, which is really, really great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really, really, really good. Thank you. I mean, I think it is already when you hear, if you've been to prison and you're coming out, finding a job, it's already that automatic kind of, I don't want to even declare it. I don't want to have to go through the process. I'm going to get rejected. And you know what? Elements of that is true. It is true. So there's reasons why people feel like it and think it. But to know this and to hear this, because we don't get to hear what employers really do think or how they really do feel. So, knowing that, and like Zak said before, about, keep going, keep trying. I think, we are hopefully moving in the right direction. So that's really good to hear.
Yeah. And some employers do still have like a blanket ban on it. So, it's not to say that the first interview you go for, it will be an automatic yes. Like there might still be some challenges around it. But the other thing is that when people do hire people with a conviction, they almost always have a good experience. 80-90% of employers say that
That's
was
high.
better than expected.
Oh, we like that. We like that percentage.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
So the reality is that, people with convictions have so much to offer. They make great employees, and the employers who are open-minded enough to see that, there's a chance that
hardworking, loyal,
entrepreneurial, great
and
spirit.
Sometimes, they've got something to prove. They've got families to support. They are much more loyal than other employees sometimes.
Yeah.
So in terms of building up to employment, do you have any advice on like the documentation needed, because there's a process in it. Once you get employed, you need your NI, ID. Where can someone go for like advice or support with that?
I would say reach out to organizations. Also, the job center can help you with stuff like that, making sure that you're, fully ready to work. And then once you've got your documentation in place, it's about more or less building that confidence, building up your CV, getting ready to come to an interview and make a disclosure if you need to.
Oh, excellent.
Amazing.
Isn't it?
Thank you so much. You spoke a lot about some really helpful and interesting things today. And there's a lot of information. So can I just get you to recap the main points of today? That would be amazing.
Sure. So I think firstly, there is something to be said about go easy on yourself when you first get out of prison. There are a lot of things that you need to get in place. And I think getting into work feels like a huge and scary thing, and it might not be priority number one, and that's okay. And, you'd really, really do well to, get safe accommodation, get all of your, benefits under control, and then start looking for work. The second thing is about like, there are stopgaps and things you can do on your way to that dream job if you know what that dream job is. And if you don't, then you can get support to help you figure out which direction to go in. And then finally is just a little bit of good news about employer attitudes do seem to be changing. It seems to be more positive and easier for people with convictions to find work than it was even a few years ago.
Oh, thanks for that, Lizzy. I just want to reiterate that, the advice you've given today, and even though Working Chance does work with women, the advice you've given today does apply to both men and women.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Cool. So here are a few organizations that can help you with finding work. Obviously, we have Working Chance. Lizzy, do you have anything to add about Working Chance?
Yeah, just quickly, we are a national organisation, so we can support you wherever you are. And all of our support at the moment can be delivered remotely as well. So it's really convenient to like fit round if you're working already, if you've got childcare responsibilities, anything like that. And we're super friendly and lovely. And 90% of the people that we support through our employability program go on to get a job. So
excellent.
Please do get in touch.
Thank you.
Oh, I love that.
Thank
I love
you.
that ending.
And we'll put more information about Working Chance in our show notes. There's also Switchback, who are an organisation that work with men, and they're based on mentoring. So they support you with work through mentoring. And there's Employment for All. They're based UK-wide. They help people who have issues that affect them with gaining employment.
And just to list a few more organisations, we have New Futures Network, St. Giles Trust, Bounce Back, and Clean Slate. So all of these organisations and the ones we've mentioned in today's podcast, we're going to put in the show notes. So have a look at them there.
Definitely. So we really want you to get in touch with us, especially if you've heard any advice or information that's helped you with gaining employment. Please do get in touch with us Or if you just want to send a message, feel free to do the same. You can DM us on Twitter and Instagram at AfterPrisonPod, or you can send us an email to podcast@prison.radio. Or if you prefer to write to us, you can write to us at Life After Prison, National Prison Radio, HMP Brixton, London, SW2 5XF.
Yeah, we really do want to hear from you. Also, don't forget to check out our other podcast called The Sit Down. On here, we're going to have guests from all walks of life, explaining and sharing their journey or story through prison or getting out of prison, and they're going to be wicked conversations, so check that out.
Yes. So thank you all for listening and watching. Thank you for Lizzy for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks to James for sending that voice note. If you've enjoyed the show or found anything useful, please like, share and subscribe. It really helps us get the podcast out there to those who need to hear it the most.
Thank you. See you next time.